Oh yeah. So I remember Steven was even telling me that. He was even complaining about it and all that stuff. You know, he's like, you know, and I was just like, I was angry at me.
And on a side note, I think it was that show that Scott had always said at the time he was dating a stripper. I don't know if he still is, but he you know, that was like the one thing he really didn't care for, like people making comments about that. And then the jackass paid me in ones for the venue rental. Like he paid, I think it was 50 ones or 25 ones or something. And it was just funny. He's always like, yeah, you know, I don't really care for people knowing that she's a stripper, but I'm gonna. And he told Steven he was gonna pay me in all ones. And Steven's like, you know what that's gonna look like, right? And then Scott decided to backtrack and only pay me in partial ones. But it just, like, stuff like that. Like, this is exactly why I will say this to my dying day. Scott Storm does not belong on Earth. Like, he really, ship him off somewhere else. You know, let him be retarded elsewhere. Because we don't need it. But anyway.
So, we do the March thing. Here comes April. We do the whole little let's test him. He fails epically. And Steven pulls us aside and says, hey man, I apologize, you know. He apologizes like a man. He's like, you know, he owns up to it. And like, dude, to be honest with you, we weren't even really testing you, as him. And we found out our answer. So now comes Steven's wife, Laura. Which, like I said, I had zero problem with working with, because we needed, you know, like I said, maybe a different set of, and definitely someone who could definitely pull their weight a lot better than Scott could.
And I'll go ahead and say this. What happened was me and Steven went to Menards to get a piece of plywood for the ring, the day of the April show. And he's like, what would you think about someone coming in and helping? And I'm like, I gave him this look. I was like, who are you talking about? And he kind of looks at me like, you know who I'm talking about. And I was like, Laura? He's like, yeah. I was like, well, what is it? What's she going to help with? He's like, just front end stuff like the flyers and getting the tickets and all that. He did not once mention anything about ownership. He said help. Fair enough. I'm like, hey, nothing wrong with helping. Joanna needs to help with the flyers. You know, what's if my wife can, why can't his? Fair enough. And Joanna at the time was, you know, she was pregnant, and she had also kind of felt like, I'm getting tired of having this timeline on doing a flyer and stuff. So I was like, cool, no big deal. So then, you know, after April, a little bit of time went on, and I remember I got back to the show in May. I got back to the show from Eaton or whatever, and they were like, oh, they're all upstairs. I go up there, and apparently you guys were having a meeting, and like you, Steven, and Laura were having a meeting, and that was when you found out she was an owner or something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what was said and all that stuff. I know she'd start pitching ideas like for different radio stations or whatever. We tried to, my idea when we first got into ownership was to try to bring in some of the Purdue crowd, some of the younger people, get a new demographic going. And she wanted to go back to the old stuff, and I was just like, but to be honest with you, I was just like, whatever. She seemed to be more interested in that kind of stuff. But, she did admit that, yeah, she was officially a quarter owner now. Which, like I said, I don't know if Hadley knew.
At the time, no. The word owner had never... I kind of sensed it.
Yeah.
When she sent me a text, like, she got my number from Steven, and had sent me a text and was like, hey, she said she wanted to bring in a guy to take pictures so she can, for the flyers and stuff. And that just kind of, I was like, okay, that's weird. But, like, the issue I had with it was, one, the way that she, like, the way she made suggestions. Like, she wasn't like, hey, what would you think about this? She was like, I remember she goes, I'm thinking, we need to quit running our ads on Wazy because it's not doing anything for us. You just walked in here. What are you doing, like, hitting us with, this is what we need to do? You need to earn your keep here. You need to earn your respect before you just come in and start making demands. But the other thing was, honestly, I felt like, okay, why is she an owner and having any say in this company, and she is nowhere near in the business? She married a wrestler that's as close to in the business as she was at the time. And that bothered me. But I didn't say anything. I did tell it that the radio ads, I was like, you can't say Lazy isn't doing anything for us, because, you know, we used to draw like 70, and then we were up to like 93. I was like, you can't say that Lazy isn't doing anything for us. But, like, you know, we stayed on friendly terms, because, you know, I knew Laura a little bit. I didn't really know her, but we went to high school together. And, I mean, but we always got along. Everything was cool. But, like, and we kept that for a period of time. And then, let's see, that was the May show. The June show is when things start getting interesting.
Yeah. June rolls around, and this Steven's big return. You know,
his mind.
He wanted a, you know, big thing. He was going to wrestle Bret Havoc. And, you know, I mean, overall, I mean, the match was pretty good. I mean, like I said...
The only thing that brought it down to me was Steven, and this is not a knock on him. His in-ring work actually was not that bad. He had no character.
Yeah. So, something that had happened before leading up to June, or, you know, to that show, was who was going to main event the show. Steven thought his big return, he should main event. Hadley's like, no, even if I were not you know, it has nothing to do with me actually being in the Fatal 4-Way. It's the fact that a brand new championship is debuting, and it needs to have the main event on the title. Doesn't matter who the 4 wrestlers are. The main event needs to be held for the brand new title, the inaugural championship.
Yeah, if you think back to 1997 when Owen faced Davey Boy in Germany, the European title, the undercard title, was the main event of the show.
Great match, by the way.
Yeah, it was phenomenal.
So here we are at the June show, and I happen to be sitting up in the bleachers with Scott and Steven in front of me. Now, I knew that this kind of stuff had just gotten under Steven's skin a little bit, and he was, I think he had an issue, him and Hadley kind of had a little exchanging of words or something earlier in the day when something about the seats, how they were sitting. Steven had a way he wanted to come in. He envisioned himself coming in, and Jeremy was like, you know.
Well, what happened was, I'll just do this real quick. You were telling me how you wanted the seats put out. Steven was standing right there when you explained it. So I was like, okay. And I set the seats out. And he comes over to me like 2 minutes later and goes, what are you doing? I was like, setting chairs out. Now, that day was kind of hectic. I'll also touch on it because the U-Haul place where you were going to pick the U-Haul up, the power was out.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like I'm sitting here like, what are we going to do? You know? And, like, I was pissed. Yeah, I'll say it. I was pissed. Because, like, you know, being in the main event on the show, having this kind of stuff go on, it just sounded like a bad omen. So I'm already, like, just a mess. I'm like, I'm angry and all this. And, so I'm setting out the chairs, and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, setting up the chairs. He's like, well, how am I going to run to the ring? There was a clear path from the entrance to the ring, and this had, like, I was fed up at this point, so I was like, I'm doing this. I mean, I'm like, he's like, okay, Hadley, I see you're getting angry. I'll walk away. And so then later that day, though, when I came back, I told him, because that was the day Scott was returning as a talent, not an owner. I shouldn't even say talent, as a person at the show. and I told him how, you know, he's like, just stay cool, keep your distance from him. I go, I will. I go, but if he comes near me, I'm gonna let him have it. So anyway, okay, but we even had talked about, you know, we were joking earlier in the day. Everything was cool between us. And I want to make this clear. I want to stress this because of something that was told to me later. But we were cool. And then I'm off in the corner all night planning my match. So the match goes on. You're sitting in the balcony with him.
So I'm sitting there, and I could sense. I tend to judge people by, you know, pay attention to their body language. I love to read their mindset, their body language. I can really tell what a person's thinking just by doing that. So I'm sitting there. You can tell he's frustrated. He's just sitting there kind of, like, I could tell, like, in his mind, he's saying to himself, I should have been in the main event. I should be there right now. I should be wrestling right now. By his body language, and then him and Scott were talking a little bit, you know, And I didn't hear what was said, so I don't know. It could have been about, you know, went to see strippers last night. I don't know. I don't know. But, so, he could have been borrowing $20 from Steven for all that. So anyway, so you know, and I could just tell Steven was just bothered. He needed to be down there, and just, like I said, you could tell by his body language he was upset that Hadley had the main event and he didn't. He really thought that he was that hugely over, and as you could go back and watch the tape or whatever, you could tell he had some pops, yes. But just overall keeping the crowd into it, no. He didn't belong in the main event. He wasn't ready. I brought that up to him after the show and told him why, you know, this and this. And he said he understood, you know. And maybe he did, maybe he didn't, I don't know.
Yeah, and after the match, I still remember this. After the match, me, Parker, Kenny, and Tripp are in the back going over, you know, oh, this was good, oh man, this felt good, oh, I wish this would have been better. And we're all in the corner. And it was over there by the kitchen where, like, in the theater, the stairs came down from the locker room and you had to go out that way. We're standing there by the kitchen entrance, and Steven comes down the stairs, walks by us, shoots me a real dirty look, and keeps walking. And I just kind of was like, huh. And then when I went to go gather venue rental from, like, his demeanor towards me was just, you know, like, I was going to him, I was like, you know, and O was like, man, you know, because he had gotten a tan, he did the spray-on tan for the show and all that, you know, and I was like, your tan looked really good, you know, I noticed that because O brought it up. And he's just kind of, like, he didn't have anything to say to me. And I finally went up to him for venue rental, and he just pulls the money out and gives it to me, like, didn't even say a word. So I texted him later that night, you know, hey, was there an issue tonight? Are you okay? He's like, oh, you were just kind of, you know, you were real distant with me, didn't speak to me, so I didn't really have anything to say to you. I'm thinking, no, that morning I was mad, but we were talking fine later when I got back. And that was kind of the moment when I started realizing, okay, something's not right here with Steven. So I took time off with my daughter. My daughter was born in August, but I wanted to make sure in case my wife went into labor early that I'd be around, so I took July and August off from wrestling. And so July and August, I don't know anything about those shows. That's in your court.
And to be honest, I don't remember.
I do remember, I think it was in August, you had told me that when you guys were setting up the ring, that's when he brought up something about Motley being a double champion.
Yeah. One thing he had talked about, Steven had talked about, was, he had talked earlier to Hadley about the not wanting to be a champion while he's a promoter and all that stuff while he's an owner. And then he had brought up that he thought maybe that Motley could be a double champion, that being the all-invitational champion that he currently was at the time, and to be a tag team champion with Steven and take it off of Revelation. And me, I'm like, no, they're not over enough, you know. Revelation need to be the tag team champions. In fact, I didn't agree with some of the stuff that the storyline that Steven had written out was pretty much putting himself over on Revelation constantly. And I brought this up to him. Here's another problem with the ownership thing.
Comic-Con?
Yeah, at the Comic-Con. Here's another problem with the ownership thing. Is sometimes you need to remove yourself as a talent to understand where the ownership, where the best of the company is, someone brings up what's best for the company. You got to take yourself out as a talent. Steven didn't do this at the Comic-Con in September. Pretty lousy show or whatever. We didn't draw any, not a whole lot anyway.